in which growing maturity rekindles the relationship between one pair of lovers, and self-absorption carries another pair to the brink of death. Chapter 1. The Karenins, husband and wife, went on living in the same house, met every day, but were completely estranged from each other. Alexei Alexandrovitch made it a rule to see his wife every day, so as to give the servants no grounds for conjecture, but he avoided dining at home. Vronsky never visited Alexei Alexandrovitch's house, but Anna saw him elsewhere, and her husband knew it. The situation was painful for all three of them, and none of them would have been able to live even one day in that situation had they not expected that it would change, and that it was only a temporary, grievous difficulty which would pass. Alexei Alexandrovitch expected that this passion would pass, as all things pass, that everyone would forget about it, and his name would remain undisgraced. Anna, upon whom the situation depended and for whom it was most painful of all, endured it because she not only expected, but was firmly convinced that it would all resolve and clarify itself very soon. She decidedly did not know what would resolve the situation, but was firmly convinced that this something would now come, very soon. Vronsky, involuntarily yielding to her, also expected something independent of himself, which would clear up all the difficulties. In the middle of winter, Vronsky spent a very dull week. He was attached to a foreign prince who came to Petersburg, and had to show him the sights of Petersburg. Vronsky himself was of impressive appearance. Besides that, he possessed the art of bearing himself with dignified respect, and was accustomed to dealing with people of this sort. That was why he had been attached to the prince. But he found the duty very burdensome. The prince wished to miss nothing of which he might be asked at home, whether he had seen it in Russia, and he himself wished to take advantage, as far as possible, of Russian pleasures. Vronsky's duty was to be his guide in the one and the other. In the morning they went around seeing the sights. In the evening they partook of national pleasures. The prince enjoyed a health remarkable even among princes. By means of gymnastics and good care of his body, he had attained to such strength that, despite the intemperance with which he gave himself up to pleasure, he was as fresh as a big, green, waxy Dutch cucumber. The prince traveled a great deal, and found that one of the main advantages of the modern ease of communication was the accessibility of national pleasures. He had been to Spain, where he had been given serenades and become close with a Spanish woman who played the mandolin. In Switzerland he had shot a gemse. In England he had galloped over fences in a red tailcoat and shot 200 pheasant for a bet. In Turkey he had visited a harem. In India he had ridden an elephant, and now in Russia he wished to taste all the specifically Russian pleasures. Vronsky, who was, so to speak, his chief master of ceremonies, went to great lengths in organizing all the pleasures offered to the prince by various people. There were trotting races and pancakes, and bear hunts and troikas, and gypsies, and carousing with a Russian smashing of crockery. and the prince adopted the Russian spirit with extreme ease, smashed whole trays of crockery, sat gypsy girls on his knees, and seemed to be asking, "What else? Or is this all that makes up the Russian spirit?" In fact, of all Russian pleasures, the prince liked French actresses, a certain ballet dancer, and champagne with a white seal best of all. Vronsky was accustomed to princes, but either because he himself had changed lately, or because he had been much too close to this prince, this week seemed terribly burdensome to him. During the whole week he kept feeling like a man attached to some dangerous lunatic, fearing the lunatic, and at the same time, from his closeness to him, fearing for his own reason. Vronsky constantly felt the necessity of not relaxing his tone of official deference for a second, so as not to be insulted. The prince had a contemptuous manner of treating those very people who, to Vronsky's surprise, turned themselves inside out to supply him with Russian pleasures. His judgments of Russian women, whom he wished to study, more than once made Vronsky flush with indignation. But what made the prince especially burdensome was that Vronsky could not help seeing himself in him, and what he saw in that mirror was not flattering to his vanity. This was a very stupid, very self-confident, very healthy, and very cleanly man, and nothing more. He was a gentleman, that was true, and Vronsky could not deny it. He was equable and unservile with his superiors, free and simple with his equals, and contemptuously good-natured with his inferiors. Vronsky was like that himself, and considered it a great virtue. But with respect to the prince, he was an inferior, and this contemptuously good-natured attitude made him indignant. "Stupid ox! Am I really like that?" he thought. Be that as it may, when he said goodbye to him on the 7th day, before the prince's departure from Moscow, and received his thanks, he was happy to be rid of this awkward situation and unpleasant mirror. He said goodbye to him at the station on the way back from a bear hunt, where they had spent the whole night in a display of Russian bravado. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe, and return tomorrow for the next chapter.